Hello, it's Jenny Luscombe, and this is Feeling is Healing, and this is episode 29. And today I'm going to be covering sovereignty. Um, and it's actually sovereignty in connection with abundance. So yeah, I've got quite a lot to say today. And Jackie might be a bit later than usual, so that's good. So I hope I don't go on and on, but yeah, I had quite a few epiphanies this week about sovereignty. So it's become really normal for us to give our power away that we don't even realize that we're doing it. It's just so normal for us to be giving ourselves away. So sovereignty is all about power. And it's not about power in the dark sense of the word. Well, it kind of is. Sovereignty is about the light form of power, which is obviously your own personal power. So, a very quick definition of sovereignty is it's basically being capable of being in your personal power and having freedom from outside control. So, this is a big topic, and I only really heard the term sort of over the last 4 years. And, I used to think it was something to do with the Queen. But yeah, this is a big meaty topic. There's loads to it, and there's loads of different kinds of sovereignty. But the core wound that creates a lack of sovereignty is basically the same one. So there's all these branches that come off sovereignty. So there's health sovereignty, financial sovereignty, educational sovereignty, body sovereignty. So, for example, people who've got their kids out of school because they're not keen on what the educational system is up to, they have achieved educational sovereignty, or they're trying to. They might have the Department for Education knocking on the door or whatever, but they're on the road. So sovereignty is it's a step by step thing into and through something that has to happen. It's inevitable. And we're all going in that direction, whether it feels like it or not. And if it doesn't feel like it, then that is probably because we're being shown aspects of our life that link directly to what we need to be exploring. So it is inevitable. So this, I mean, it's because we're in this dichotomy. We've been in the dark for so long. We're going towards the light now, and there's no stopping us. So this is about letting go of need. So it comes back to codependence again, and it's again such a big thing, codependence. I seem to talk about it every week because it comes in with everything. So just a very small recap, codependence is about when we self-sacrifice and we're stuck in need, which is not a healthy need. So we can't really heal ourselves out of a need, but we can heal codependence because it's kind of different to other kinds of needs. So this is about need in the detrimental sense of the word. So this is when because of our need, we're depending on somebody, something, or a situation which is actually causing us harm, but we feel like we haven't got any choice, or we feel like it's the best we can do. So I'm only just sort of beginning to understand sovereignty over the last 4 years, and I haven't achieved that yet. Um, but I have, realized, using myself as an example, that I have unwittingly achieved health sovereignty, and I never set out to do that. 12 years ago, I set out to explore my own trauma because I'd reached a point in my life where everything was collapsing and I knew I needed to do something. And I was surfacing all sorts of things that I'd forgotten, that I'd suppressed. And my head was flooded with a load of information that I didn't know what to do with, memories and things like that. So that's when I discovered EFT tapping, and I realized that I could start to heal myself just through awareness. And so I learned how to surface subconscious information. So I achieved health sovereignty as a byproduct of a huge amount of trauma work and emotional healing. So I'm in my early 50s now, and I haven't seen a doctor for, I think it is about 12 years. I have no medical issues, no physical issues, no pain, no autoimmune. I don't take any pharmaceuticals, including, basic stuff like paracetamol or ibuprofen, nothing, because I don't need to. So how's that? I hear you asking, why? And it's because I'm my own medicine. I don't need medicine external to me because I don't think they talk sense. And my doctor told me that I'd have chronic pain forever, and he was wrong because I don't have it anymore. So the vast majority of illness of every description has an emotional root, and it is caused by unhealed trauma and unprocessed emotion. Now, I didn't know this when I set out, so I accidentally healed my back pain and many other things. So if I ever get something minor wrong with my body, I'll medicate with herbs or food, turmeric will help this, or, lemon will help that, or whatever. And I'll research that, and then I'll intuitively know that that will help me. But what I tend to do is go for the emotional route first. So if I need any extra help, then I'll go looking for vegetables or herbs or whatever. So all of the types of sovereignty that I mentioned above, and many other types that we haven't actually achieved yet, this lack of sovereignty is mainly caused by limiting belief or limiting beliefs, which are causing us to give our power away to someone else, to a situation, for example, a job that we hate. I know so many people who are in jobs that they hate, and they just think that that's what the world is, and that you have to do that, and that you don't have choice. And as soon as someone gives you a job, you cling on to it for your entire life, as if there isn't any others. It's based on lack. And like many of us stay in relationships which we can feel are off, and that there could be somebody else out there that would be much more nurturing, or whatever the deal is. So we're giving our power away, and that's what is causing a lack of sovereignty. And it's very connected up with codependence. So, as well as supplementing with nature and connecting with ourselves in our pain and our emotional, mental, physical symptoms, that's the answer to sovereignty. So this will get you everywhere, and you will become more and more sovereign in every way imaginable. And it is a gradual process. And humans, we want a quick fix. I've wanted a quick fix, and I've been doing this for 12 years, and my life is still kind of in disarray in certain areas, but I've nailed quite a few things down as well. Yeah, so I sort of feel like I achieved health sovereignty accidentally so I could teach that. Um, so I also think that it's sovereignty specifically that is leading us into unity consciousness. Because if you think about it, if you think about the microcosm, the macrocosm, what we're doing when we're doing emotional healing and trauma work is we're reclaiming aspects of ourself that we pushed away. So when we unify our parts of consciousness and we move from fragmentation into integration, then we can basically eat popcorn at the external world, because what you change within, you are going to see in your external world. So you will see your external world also integrate in some way because you did that internally. So it does sound barking mad to many people. And I've been trying to sort of convince people of this for a long time. So I truly believe that self-healing, inner work, working on yourself is the way. And if you think about what unity consciousness is, if we all healed, if we all learnt to be sovereign and to be self-healing, and to realize we didn't need the pharmaceuticals, we don't need the doctor or the psychiatrist or the psychologist or whatever. I'm not saying don't have therapy, because we all need to do that if we've got things going on, and we need the reflection. But to supplement any form of therapy that you're having with self-healing is miraculous, because you realize you're empowered, and you realize that the powerlessness that you felt all your life was an illusion. And there's nothing better than every single person stepping into their power at the same time. So if everyone healed, we wouldn't need to steal power off other people. We wouldn't need the codependent relationship adaptation. We wouldn't need to manipulate. We wouldn't need to steal others' power. This would be, if everybody did that en masse, this would be unity. That would be what unity is. So today, well, actually, not today, yesterday, I was sitting in the sun on a park bench thinking about sovereignty. And I did that meditation that we did last week. So anybody that heard last week's show, you'll know that we were working with the energy of the sun and the energy of the creator and the energy of the earth as powers kind of outside of us, like we were seeing them at the beginning as powers outside of us. Now, often I've thought, when I've done meditations like this, I'm harnessing that power, I'm tuning into that power, and I'm taking that power from the external, but I'm tuning into it, and I'm using that for my benefit, and I'm very grateful and all of that. But what we actually realized in the process of doing the meditation is that if we believe in oneness, we are that. It's you. The sun is you. The earth is you. The creator is you. We are all of that. So I was sitting on the bench in the sun, and the sun was on my skin. I was receiving the sun into my skin, and I was thinking about that, thinking about sovereignty. And I just kept having all these epiphanies, and I was laughing out loud like a crank on a bench, which I do quite often. And I suddenly was thinking about the sun and thinking about how the sun was me and how we are everything. And I saw the sun as me, and then it started to actually be that, and then it was, and it felt familiar, and it was me shining on me. So by this point, I was kind of pissing myself laughing at my own cosmic joke. And then I just started to sort of receive more and more information about sovereignty. So yeah, so this might be weird, I don't know, but yeah, it's kind of like the universe sent us a telegram for Telegram. So it's not really, it's not me doing this. It's just me sitting on a bench in the sun, sort of receiving information. So the information that I was receiving was all about giving and receiving, and it was all about sovereignty as it applies to abundance. And I hadn't really thought about sovereignty in connection with abundance, but when you start to think about it, it's obvious. So I started to think about relationships and how they're basically our main portal into understanding ourselves as a result of the reflections that you get from other people, and then realizing how that it applies to you, and then finding that in your subconscious mind, asking yourself a lot of questions, self-inquiry, and then the integration of that. So for me, relationships have been my biggest learning. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, okay, the highest and best, most healing way to sort of share what happened to me on the bench is for you to tap with me. Because if you just go to tap on the side of your hand underneath your little finger, that's your karate chop point. Or if you tap on the center of your chest, it actually helps you to listen. And it accelerates learning. It does so many things. So tapping helps you to reach your truth. And it helps you to converse with your body, to receive messages from sensation in your body. It helps you to surface subconscious information, to receive answers that catalyze growth. It reduces stress cortisol in the body by about 50%. And if you let it, if you commit to it, it will induce profound shifts of consciousness. And when I first started tapping, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, how is this even possible? Why isn't this in schools and hospitals and, all of this? So, but one of the most miraculous things that it does, it actually helps you to change limiting beliefs. So, a lack of sovereignty, so a giving away of your power to external powers instead of being tuned 100% into your own power is caused by limiting beliefs. So, and I think these limiting beliefs are mainly around sort of understanding energy exchange. So, what giving actually is and what receiving actually is. So, I would recommend tapping. Obviously, you don't have to do that. And I know that Jackie's driving, so probably don't do that, Jackie. Yeah, so if you're driving, don't do that. Um, so I think actually in next week's show, because I've had an epiphany about all of this and how it relates to addiction, because addiction is connected up with codependence as well. So next week I might actually do a full tapping session using all the points, because I think I've found something that I didn't realize was happening with addiction, which is brilliant, you know. And I've worked with people with addiction for quite a long time. So for today, I would say just tap on your chest or on the side of your hand and just tune into what I'm saying from now on and think about how it applies to you, mainly in your relationship dynamics, but also think about money, think about your financial flow. But I think because the root causes of a lack of money or a lack of finances, whatever it is, or a lack of whatever the sovereignty is, the root cause is in relationship. So I think the main thing that would make sense to focus on is relationships and probably thinking about your relationships in the family when you were a kid as well. So just open a door in the universe to receive what you need to know. So I was thinking about giving and receiving, and I was thinking about what receiving is. And then I was thinking about codependence. And I realized that codependence is not about receiving, it's about taking. So taking and receiving are not the same. Taking is different to receiving. So we take when we lack something, and we don't always do it with permission. So many of us manipulate to get our needs met, and we might not even be aware of that. So we take when we're lacking something, we take when we're scared, and we take when we don't believe in ourselves. So sovereignty relies on self-belief. So if you don't believe in yourself, think about taking and what you could be taking that you think is helping, but it could be more out of a desperation than, you know, realizing that that is actually the right thing to take. You might feel limited and like, I have to take that thing. So others take from us when they lack something. So they'll take from us when they're scared and when they don't believe in themselves. So taking isn't love. Taking is fear. So taking is a choice, even though it might not feel like it if we have a perception of lack and limitation. So just ask yourself, where is this happening for me? So think about taking being different to receiving. Receiving is also a choice. And some of us who find it hard to receive, we're kind of like, how the blimmin' hell do we do that? You know, but we do have to actually choose it and realize the difference between taking and receiving. So receiving is different to taking. So receiving can happen when we are given to by someone else, but we can't always let it in. And we can be received by others, but they don't always let us in. So many of us kind of on the spiritual path, we have codependence. You know, codependence is one of my main gene keys. I've had like a boatload of it to deal with in my life, like with a million different people. So put it this way, like if you feel like you're kind of stuck in this need for validation, like I need to be heard, I need to be seen, I need to be sensed, I need to be felt, I need somebody to get me, that is totally understandable and it just makes sense after what we've been through. But our need for that is not doing us any good, and we have to see that. So codependence is when you have a need which is actually not serving you, it's detrimental in some way. But I'm not going to invalidate the need because there are so many reasons why we would have it. So we just have to look at that up close and personal. So just keep tapping. So our need for being heard, for being seen, for being sensed, for being understood, like all of that, is a lack in ourselves. So it's seeking power from outside of us. And it's not sovereignty. And we might seek that power because it makes us feel better. But ultimately, if we have this pattern, it might feel like we never get what we're looking for. Now, if you have this need to be heard, need to be validated, it's not helping you, but it is a valid need. So I would recommend, if you're listening on the replay, pause and then tune into the intense craving that you have there. This is how it's all linked up to addiction. Craving a person's love or craving someone's validation. So we're searching for, this is us as kids, like looking for mum's attention, looking for dad's attention, looking for the love, looking for it to be okay for us to be ourselves. We're leaking energy left, right, and center when we don't deal with this need. And our energy's all over the place. And that's what we're all doing. This is pretty much everybody on the planet. So even if you feel shame about that, tune into the shame. And shame is just a push away of the self, which is ultimately what you're doing when you're in this need, because you don't feel good enough yourself. And that's why you're seeking outside of yourself. So if we're used to not being seen, not being heard, not being sensed, not being felt, not being understood, then think about this. So think about when you are received by others, which doesn't normally happen, it feels big. It feels big for us codependents when somebody understands you or someone's on the same page as you. So that's you being given to, and being received by others does feel like receiving, because it's something that you've craved, it's something that you've wanted. So when that finally happens, you suddenly see, okay, I'm giving something to them and they're receiving it. And you're like, oh my God, this is miraculous. I must have had a shift of consciousness. So being received by others is receiving for you if you're stuck in that pattern. So you're giving, but it's also receiving. So I want you to start to open your mind to the idea that it's the same energy, and that many of us were stuck in this one-way system when we were kids. Right, I'll get to that sort of a bit later. So wouldn't it be cool if we were given to in equal measure to how much you give to others? Imagine that. Because many of us are people pleasers and we just selflessly give, and then wonder why we get depleted. And wouldn't it be cool if we gave and received? Wouldn't it be nice if we received others in equal measure to them receiving us? What if it was like ping pong and it was equal on both sides? So this kind of feeling of give, receive, it's just an energy, it's just how it works, it's a law of the universe, is really important. This equality. Now, this is what we didn't have. because when we were kids, there was always some kind of, I can't do this because mum's here, or I can't do that because dad says, or I can't be myself, I have to be more like them, or whatever. So, what if we're learning more and more as every second goes by that giving is receiving? And what if we're learning more and more as every second goes by that receiving is giving? Because you have to see the benefit on both sides. So, this two-way thing is how to be sovereign and abundant. This is when being given to is giving to them, and giving to them is being given to. So basically, they benefit when you receive them, and you benefit when they receive you. So think about your relationships and your energy exchange that's going on. Who's benefiting by your energy exchange? And who's benefiting the most? And what could you do to even that out? And why, in your particular circumstances, would that be happening? And is it okay with you? So, for many of us that seek this power outside of us, being received by another is receiving for us. So, being received and giving is the same thing. It means that we exist. So, it kind of hit me when I was on the bench, laughing to myself like a crank. It's obvious that it has to happen in both directions. Like for example, when I was a kid, it was one way. I had a difficult set of parents and I had to give, there were expectations. I was trying to please. So not only was I giving, trying to figure out like what do I have to do to please these people, I was also being taken from in many different ways. And I couldn't receive what I needed, and I didn't receive, and it had a very detrimental effect on me and my health and my mental health. So it's just basic maths. If you give, and someone's taking, what do you get? It cannot work, and you can't get to sovereignty from there. It's just impossible. You just can't. So I would recommend doing everything you can to look at this equal give and take that is required, because sovereignty will definitely come when you crack this. And this kind of one-way system when we were kids, just think about that. It might not have been the same for you as it was for me. Um, what was that for you? I mean, this on some level to it happened to all of us, and we're currently unraveling it. And it is beautiful because the energy of the universe is on our side and we're just kind of being carried. So I want you to just set the intention to bust this wide open. And even if you think you can't do it, or you don't have the skills, or you don't understand this stuff enough, or you're not experienced enough, or you feel too numb to connect with yourself, or you feel too sick, or, whatever that is, I want you to just set the intention to just receive the information that you need. So, thinking about this giving and receiving, and about how giving is receiving and receiving is giving, this kind of contemplation highlights where your particular imbalances are. And if you're tapping, ask yourself, where is the root of this for me? And the tapping itself makes you think of thoughts that are relevant to where your mind is going, like there are no accidents. If you think a thought when you're tapping, it's connected to what you're focusing on. So there are people in the world, maybe it's you that's listening. Maybe there are people that you know who are like this. So there's people in the world who selflessly give, give, and they think that that's virtuous. They think that it's the opposite of selfishness, and that's what they need to be doing. People would judge them if they didn't, or they'd get in trouble if they didn't. Um, but they end up depleted because they've made themselves not exist. Sovereignty cannot happen for a person who, with the majority of their actions, is sending a message into the universe that they don't exist. Sovereignty is about 100% existence on planet Earth. Sovereignty can't happen from self-sacrifice or selflessness. So that's the codependent side of things. On the more narcissistic side of things, there are people who cannot receive because they can't recognize when you are giving. And they might actually, if you're giving, from your heart to somebody who's like that, they might actually view you bearing gifts of love with suspicion because all they know is deception and manipulation from their own wounding. And they can't recognize love. And they're looking at you with suspicion when your arms are full of love, expecting selfishness from you and thinking that you have an agenda because that's all that they know. So these folk need unconditional love, which is not often self-loving for us to give in an indefinite way. Obviously, it depends what your relationship to that person is. So sovereignty can't come from giving to a bottomless person who can't receive. It just can't. And there will often be sort of in that circumstance, if you're trying to love somebody who can't receive that love. So basically, this is where you're giving your power away on the other side of the coin. Sovereignty can't come for them until they understand the flow in both directions and until they learn to recognize love and receive that. And it also sovereignty can't come for you if you are giving your power away in that way. Because it just makes sense that if you're relying on something external, it's not real, it's not predictable. You can't depend on that. It isn't healthy, and you could get yourself tied up in all sorts of knots. So when I was a kid and I was trying to be myself in the world, and my parents couldn't receive me, they saw my uniqueness, or whoever I was back then, and they would make me the bad guy for existing as me. So this, when I was on the sunny bench, this made me laugh out loud as well. So I was thinking about that, and my mum used to say to me, well, I mean, she needed me to be what she had in mind, for me to be, not what I had in mind. And what she had in mind wasn't fun. And she would say things like, Jennifer thinks that the world revolves around her. And it's one of those stories that sort of has echoed around my head for a long time. I think I'm over it now. But, after 51 and a half years on this planet, I've realized, okay, hang on, the the world does actually revolve around me. And then I started to think, okay, so how does this work? Like, actually, if the world does revolve around me because I am the creator and I am my own power, like, imagine a world like in unity consciousness where we've all learned to be sovereign because we're healing ourselves, right? Imagine a world where we're all letting the world revolve around us. So imagine living the dream of the world revolving around you while everyone else is letting the world revolve around them. Everybody in their truth. No stealing of power required. Just giving and receiving in abundance. Hello, yes, please. So this is the natural order of things. And Selflessness and selfishness just doesn't come into it. Neither of them are relevant, and both are agendas. So, if anybody wants to work towards sovereignty themselves and they haven't really got a Scooby-Doo like where to start, I've written a course, and I wrote it a couple of years ago actually, which is basically sort of a self-study set of videos, and it's very practical. And I did it because a lot of clients would say to me after sessions, what can you email me the steps? So like the when I do a EFT session, it's kind of divided up into four chunks of the session. And they kind of felt like to use that to work on themselves, they needed a step-by-step guide to kind of get started. So this is why I did the course. And also because it had benefited me so much to learn how to do inner child work and parts work, because you're basically reclaiming aspects of self, which is definitely going to help you with sovereignty. And all of this you can easily learn to do yourself. Like this course has changed quite a lot of people's lives. And if you learn it as a practice and then you love yourself enough to commit to it, then you're flying. And at this point, in the cosmos and with what we need to do, and people like us, we need to raise the frequency for the collective as well, because there's so much going on. Um, there's no one else that can change your life. I can't change your life, but I can help to point you in the right direction. Like the only person that can change your life is you. You, only you. No one else can do it for you. No one else can feel for you. No one else knows what the right questions are to ask you. So the course that I've written is called Free Therapy Forever, a crash course in sovereignty, self-healing, and self-mastery. And I've got like a million discount codes on my website, because I think I am the most accessible therapist in the universe. And I want to live in a world where everyone is sovereign and we're in unity consciousness and the world is revolving around all of us. So if you want to find out more about that, get in touch with me, or you can have a look on my website. Just put the website in /courses, and then you can find out a bit more about it. But I would highly recommend, because tuning into yourself in whatever way you do that is the answer to everything. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna stop shortly, but when I've been sort of putting this show together and thinking about the dynamics of it and how everything works, and I think I'm having a bit of a sort of joining of the dots. I don't know, it's like a multi-dimensional thing that's happening that I don't really understand yet. But I'm starting to see how everything is joined up. And I've realized today, actually, a few things about addiction. And I'm quite excited. And I've worked with people with addiction for quite a long time. But I think this is going to really help. So I might do something next week that I've never done before, because I just think that so many people are codependently relying on substances at the moment, because everyone's sort of in despair and desperation. If you haven't kind of got the missing pieces yet and the puzzle to your life, which there's no shame in at all. It's what we're all doing and it's what we're all in. So I might actually do a tapping session if anybody wants to join in next week. Maybe a bit of talk at the beginning about addiction, and then maybe I'll guide you through the tapping points, and then you can repeat after me while we say lots of things that will give you truth bombs. Because if you bring your awareness to something like that, it has a knock-on effect in your life that is unreal, unreal. Because, all addictions are, something that we get relief from that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. But we ultimately know that we can't keep doing that because it's going to cause our health problems, or, whatever, or our finances, or, whatever the addiction is. So we can't keep doing it. And also, addiction is not sovereign. Addiction can't bring abundance. And if we want sovereignty, if we want our personal power to broaden and for us to improve in that regard, then we have to send messages out into the universe. Okay, I'm not going to abandon myself like that anymore. I want to reclaim my power. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. I've had addictions and still do on some level. So that's what I think I might do next week. So I'm quite excited about that. Um, but there are things that I've suddenly realised about addiction that seem really blooming obvious now that I didn't see before. Um, so that's brilliant. And I've actually finished early. That's so interesting that I said to Andy at the beginning, I thought I had loads to say, and I thought that I was going to go on, but I didn't. It's a weird multi-dimensional thing that's just happened. So yeah, I think I'll stop there. I think it's just you, Andy. I
It
can't.
is just me.
It's
Thank
just
you very much,
you.
Jenny. Do you want me to stop the recording now?
Yeah, yeah. Let's do that.
Right.